Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Thanks for joining us today on Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, and today I'm here with our State Extension Dairy Specialist, Gail Carpenter, as we visit with our guests that we have on the show today. So welcome back to the podcast, Gail.
I'm so happy to be here, Jen. This is one of my favorite podcasts that we've started doing a couple of years ago, highlighting some of our high-achieving seniors, some of the people that we are so proud of from Iowa State. And I can see them. Our listeners can't see them, but I can see them smirking at me right now. But we are very proud of you guys. And I'm always excited when we can put excellent Iowa State alumni out into the world. And I think it says a lot about our university, about the quality of students that we produce. Not all of them dairy science, though. So we invited a couple of our students, or a handful of students here today, but they're from all different majors. So maybe we'll let our guests introduce themselves. Why don't you each just say your name and your major, and maybe why you chose to come to Iowa State. Mari, we can start with you.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me today. My name is Mariana Brenner. I'm originally from Northwest Illinois. I'm obviously a senior, graduating with a degree in agricultural business. I chose to go to Iowa State. Honestly, I don't really entirely know the right reason why. It wasn't my plan to come here at all, but it just kind of fell into my lap, and I haven't looked back since. I've been very blessed with a lot of opportunities here.
My name is Irene Nielsen. I'm a senior in dairy science, ag communications, and international ag. Iowa State was never really on my agenda coming out of high school, but when looking at the different programs available, Iowa State had some really strong dairy programs. I'm originally from Michigan and knew I wanted to probably get out of state and see some other dairy industries across different states. And so Iowa State just really fit what I wanted, especially with like the financial support available as well.
And a fun fact, Irene and I are from the same county.
That is a very fun fact.
I'm so sad that I don't get to say that fun fact anymore, because everybody's always like, well, I'm from Winneshiek, I'm from Fayette, and I'm like, I'm from Ingham County, and nobody knows what that means except Irene Nielsen, but not anymore.
Maybe I'll have my little sister in a few years and you can like relive that fact.
I'm hoping so, yes.
Well, my name is Reagan Kramer. I'm from Southwest Wisconsin, graduating with a degree in agricultural studies and international ag. And when I was a senior in high school, I was like, I'm not going to Iowa State. My mom went to school here, A, B, and C. I'm going to Madison. And then I came and toured, and here I am. So I fell in love with the campus originally, and I knew they were a great ag school. So that kind of is what influenced me to come here.
I'm Delaney Erbsen. I'm also from Northwest Illinois, really close to Maury. And I'm actually not graduating until December, but I'm getting a degree in dairy science and then a minor in genetics. And then I was also set on Madison, going to Madison. I was like, my cousin came here, I'm not going to Iowa State. But what really drew me was like the support and the donors that support the dairy science program at Iowa State, because I knew I wanted to get a dairy science degree. So that's really what pulled me to Iowa State. And of course, the fact that I was here, Delana. I knew you wanted to move where I was. Oh, obviously. Had to come see Maury again.
Yes, for any high school seniors that are listening, we do have a lot of scholarships for dairy science. So if you're listening and you're thinking about Iowa State, reach out to us. We can get you at least a little bit of money, because college is pretty expensive. So so you talked about why you came to Iowa State, but and I know this is probably hard to do because you're graduating at least soon or later on this year, and so you've had a lot of experiences. But what and you know, keep it, there's families listening, so keep it PG. But what would you say is some of your most memorable experiences at Iowa State? I know you've all been involved in a lot of different things.
I can get us started. So through my time here, I came in not knowing a single person, so I really had to kind of pave the way on what connections I wanted to have and what impact I wanted to have on Iowa State and what impact Iowa State wanted to have on me. So I got involved really heavily in the Dairy Science Club, and that's where I think most of my friendships lie. Almost all the friends I have today are from that club in a standpoint. So I'd say anything to do with the things I've done there, small or large. I really enjoyed planning ADSA with Irene, who's on this call. That was probably one of the most memorable things I've done at my time here, just because of the impact not only that had on Iowa State students, but also students across the Midwest. Really rewarding event. But I would say to anyone who's listening, you have to find ways to make it your own. You have to find ways to cultivate it to be your own story. That my story is not going to be the same as everybody else's. So, obviously, there's been a lot of fun late nights and things like that. But find things that matter. Surround yourself with people who can push you to do really good things, and overall, that's going to lead to a memorable experience.
Yeah, it was really exciting. So I do want to shout out again, Mari and Irene. And Reagan, you helped out quite a bit with this as well. But bringing ADSA back to the Midwest. The undergraduate conference had not been hosted since we last hosted it right before COVID. And I know when I was an undergrad, maybe you too, when you were an undergrad, Jen, there were a lot of memories around ADSA events, and had the opportunity to get to know a lot of people from different universities across the Midwest, or nationally even. And so seeing that come back was really exciting. And I know that there's other schools that were really happy that we took that first step, to say, you know what, if it's going to happen, we're going to do it. So
Yeah, I would agree. There was a lot of memorable moments with ADSA, and it was so fun to come back and be a part of the Midwest ADSA when you held it there a few months ago. It was just fun to see the enthusiasm of all the students from the Midwest and how everybody just connected so well right away. So that was pretty cool.
all right, who else has a memory to share?
To follow Mario, I'll absolutely echo Dairy Science Club, Dairy Challenge, and Dairy Judging. But some other experience that maybe took me outside the dairy realm a little bit was studying abroad. Cal Study Abroad has a really large amount of programs. Reg and I both studied abroad. Just like doing some short little travel courses, which are like 2 weeks, and it was really fun. I've gotten to travel to the Netherlands on a dairy-focused trip, Ghana focusing on tropical agriculture. I did a program in Rome working with the FAO there on some food insecurity projects. And then most recently, I went to Madagascar. And like those trips are so fun because you get to meet people outside your major and sometimes outside your college, but also like it's all ag focused too. So you really gain some perspective on like international issues or food insecurity and things like that as well.
Yeah, I guess my most memorable experiences would would kind of be a combination of both. Like being involved within the club is very important, but I also think that most of my memories like retain with just making those connections within your peers and within the industry. Like Irene said, studying abroad, I had the opportunity to meet people all over the globe within the dairy industry, and it's all about just at the end of the day, we're all people, and I think that's very, very important. And like my peers on this call, I will probably be in contact with them later down the road in some way, shape, or form through the dairy industry. And so knowing that I think has been the best part, whether it's doing something within the club or doing something out on a certain street. And in Ames, there's lots of different ways to stay connected. So those are my favorite memories, I think.
Yeah, I kind of have to go off of that too. I'd have to say my most memorable was definitely spending hours and hours with people in the car. You can learn a lot about somebody when you're on a trip, either dairy judging or dairy challenge. I'd say that's kind of where I met some of my best friends and got involved in the club because of meeting those people through dairy judging and dairy challenge.
And I also want to shout out that this is the class who started the Cardinal and Gold Classic too. So we did not host the calf sale this year because we were hosting ADSA, but the calf sale has been one that started with this group when you were freshmen, Irene, and so that's been kind of fun to watch as well and see something to pass on to the next generation. Would anybody like to take a moment to brag about anything else? I know, Delana, you mentioned being on the judging team, and Irene was also on the judging team. So we have ag competition teams, dairy judging and dairy challenge. Anything else that I'm not thinking of that you guys competed in? I feel like you're all just a competitive crowd. You should have done Pitt Dairy Products too, and then you could have had the trifecta. But
I don't know if personally for me, dairy products would have worked out, but
Oh, well, Mari, you've done some like ag pitch and like business stuff, right? Like
Oh
Mari,
yeah, I
ag
guess.
biz girl.
Yeah, I guess I've been a part of the incubator program here, along with the Changemaker, pitching different business ideas, which is something I'm kind of passionate about. Hopefully, going to do in my 10-year plan in life, start my own business. So I've been a part of that, and I've won a couple pitches with a business that I created. So that's been a really unique experience while at Iowa State, and I think a little bit different than maybe some others. Since I'm not dairy science, I have a little bit of a different outlook on, I guess, how my education is different than theirs, but also the same in a sense too. So yeah, I've been fortunate to be a part of those programs.
and I do love, obviously, have a strong attachment for the dairy science major, but I think that one of the things that's cool about dairy, in dairy students in general at Iowa State is how many majors we pull people from. So here, even on this call, we have dairy science, we have ag studies, we have ag business. But when I look across the dairy science club, we see, ag business, ag systems technology, ag communications, ag education, all sorts of different really cool majors. So it's really neat to see how our dairy students are going to impact the world in a bunch of different ways, not just even without a dairy science major attached to it. So Mari, you kind of said, you kind of gave a little bit of advice. And I've heard you give that advice to other underclassmen before about make it your own. But who else has advice that they'd like to pass on to anybody interesting? And we said maybe interested in dairy science, but it doesn't have to be dairy science, like we just said. It could be any major. What advice would you have for any new freshmen or any younger students coming in next year?
I would say absolutely, no matter where you go or what you're majoring in, get involved early. I think that's one of the things that I regret is my freshman year. I didn't get super involved other than the Dairy Science Club. I didn't try a lot of new things, and I absolutely wish I did early. I wish I studied abroad earlier. I wish like there was so many different things, whether it was getting involved in like the stuff that Mari talked about, like the Changemaker Academy and things like that. But getting involved will really shape your experience too and shape the people that you're around. I know like Regan and I became roommates sophomore year, but it was because we had initially connected at a dairy science club meeting. And same for like Mari and Delana, we just ended up connecting through these experiences, whether it was Dairy Challenge or different dairy classes and stuff like that. So I would say just absolutely get involved. It really makes the difference.
my advice would be to like have fun. Absolutely. That's my like I just always enjoy like, making sure people are and making sure that you're comfortable and getting the most of experience, but there's also a line where you want to make sure that you're still being like productive. So as long as you're having fun but making the most of your college experience because it does go by very fast and I've learned like a lot. Like through Dairy Challenge with Gail and a lot of other experiences, it's really opened my mind to like a lot of different ways the industry is being involved with each other and innovative. So I think having fun but keeping your mind open is also very important.
I would agree with all of those. Specifically Maury's, I would say definitely be yourself. As somebody that came in with the last name that has already been here before, is definitely like people put me with my cousin. So I'd definitely say like be yourself and get out there, have fun. And then I would also say be outgoing. As a freshman, I was super shy. Like barely even talked to Irene in the first class that I had with her because I was so shy. And now I feel like
Well,
I could.
Irene is also very scary.
Yeah,
So
she is. She is. But I would say definitely to get outside of your comfort zone because now I've grown so much and can almost talk to anyone now. Really quick, I just want to add, kind of bouncing off all of theirs. I think coming in, and this is like a unique perspective on the dairy science major itself, is don't be afraid to have a specific interest, even if you're not in the major. So, like, I've cultivated my entire experience around the dairy industry, and not a lot of kids in the egg business have done that. So I've had to be different in that standpoint. So, be willing to be different while being yourself. And I think that can set you apart in a standpoint as well. So it's okay if you don't always know everything that the other dairy science majors might know, because I don't, and that's okay. But I've still gotten really unique experiences from it. So be willing to try hard things.
that's great advice. I love that. So you've all learned a lot, I hope. Reagan said she learned a lot. I hope everybody's gotten some value out of their college education anyway. What do you think's maybe the biggest thing or a favorite class a favorite class or one big thing that you've learned.
I'll go first. My favorite class by far was Animal Science 435 with
Oh,
Dr.
of course you have
Gill.
to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, my last little suck up points here. But no, it was very practical experience for me, and like Gail brought in a lot of different speakers, and it changed the way I thought about how dairy industry is on the real hands-on and like real world experience. And as a senior graduating, I think that's an invaluable thing to have because it sets you up for success.
hmm
Yeah, I can absolutely bounce off Reagan. I will add a different class just to not say the same, but 435 was my favorite class. Reagan and I are TAing it this semester, and it brings in a lot of practical experience, a lot of relevant industry people. You learn a lot and you get to ask questions. Like it's a very discussion-based class. You're getting to ask questions of these people who have been in industry, maybe for a long time, maybe for a short time. It really allows you to kind of gain some perspective, but also better understand where the industry is going. I also took a technical communications class, and I honestly can't tell you what the number was, but it's like part of the AgCom realm. And the professor has now left, but it was really interesting to be able to kind of pull in those concepts and it allow you to like curate the assignments to what your interest was. And so obviously a lot of mine were dairy focused or maybe international focused. And being able to write is so important, even if it's something as simple as writing an email. So I really enjoyed that class because I definitely would fall on the more technical writing side of like the ag com major. But I really liked that class. We had some really interesting discussions about hot topics in ag. And so being able to kind of understand different perspectives, even in industries I'm not in, like the row crop side or things like that, things that maybe don't interest me that much, but being able to understand different perspectives and things like that were really important. And that class was really good for that.
So I've been thinking a lot about, what I've learned the most while being here. And I think that's such a big question and like what my favorite class is. And I don't know that this is like the best answer, but I can't say that I liked a lot of my classes. I've liked a lot of my time here, but I think the thing that I will take with me the longest in my career and in life is the soft skills that you kind of really enhance on a scale. I think the ability to be kind to people, the ability to listen, the ability to be empathetic. I think that's something I'll carry. That's something not something I thought that I would take away from college. And I know it kind of sounds like, oh my gosh, you came to school for 4 years to learn that. You should have already known how to do that. But I think it's something we often forget. We forget that you can be a really good person and be the smartest in the room, but if you're not kind, it doesn't matter. So I think that's personally what's probably going to take me the furthest, and hopefully I'll have a lasting career in just that ability.
Yeah.
I'll bounce right off Mari there. I'd have to agree. Like coming in, it was always, you want to be the smartest, you want to have all the knowledge and everything, but it's really about the people you know. And even if you don't have the same interests with people, they can still get you somewhere in life. So just making connections, talking to people, like even if you're not going to connect, they can still be good to have in your corner. So I think that's the biggest thing that I took from Iowa State.
Well, and the dairy industry is so small too, right? I always tell people like be careful what bridges you burn because there's a very limited number of people in this industry, right? And so having those connections, we're always just a couple degrees removed from somebody, and it's very easy to leverage that network in a productive way. Um, and so it's really great to hear that you guys took that.
Yeah, I'll echo off the industry is small comment. I mean, even just between the four gals on this call, there's some way, shape, or form that we were connected without knowing it before we came to Iowa State. And so that's another thing I would like to say for any advice or listeners who want to be dairy science at Iowa State is that like it's such a small industry and you'll meet people that you didn't know you were connected to before, and it'll change the way that your career goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely say too, like it's so important to be able to learn from your peers. And I think that can be hard because like, right, college is competitive no matter what, whether it's you're competing for a position in a club, whether you're competing for scholarships, but learning from your peers is so important. Like realistically, I had no connection, well, no notable connections that I knew of between the other three girls on this call before I came. But like they each have skills that are so important. And like Mari and I have worked a lot with each other just through Dairy Science Club or ADSA or Dairy Challenge, things like that. And so, yeah, like Mari is a very kind person. She's very easy to bring to a team. And that's like it allowed me to kind of have some perspective too, because I tend to be a little more results driven and less like people focused sometimes. And so Mari is really nice to balance me out on teams. And like Reagan, obviously, I've learned a lot from or learned a lot about just being her roommate. But those different connections are super fun. And Delana, whether it was dairy judging practices or having her in class, like obviously she's super genetics focused and brings a really unique perspective with her experience. So learning from your peers is super important. And that's why getting involved and having those connections is so valuable.
Yeah, because the industry is so small, whether you like it or not, everyone has something to contribute. And if you choose to not see that, you're probably going to sink in a big sea. So I think that's been a very, very valuable thing for me, especially like Irene said, working with her in several things. We're very different skill sets, but we work really, really well together. At least I think. She could disagree. But we balance each other out very, very well. And that's not something I consider. I'm like, someone that does have a different skill set doesn't mean you can't work with them. And I'm very appreciative of Iowa State for bringing me that perspective.
Well, kudos to all of you. In listening to you, I'm just in awe of the things that you've shared about your experience and the skills and the knowledge and the advice that you've shared. Just gave a real world perspective of what it's like to be an ISU student and graduate of the programs that you're in. And so again, I just want to thank you for sharing those experiences. And you can tell on the call that your friendships have been built over the last few years, and you can see that those are going to continue for your lifelong careers wherever you go.
Jen, what was your favorite class? Because you were a dairy science major.
Yeah, I would say we didn't. I would say 434 because I had Howard Tyler. So I don't think any of you have had Howard Tyler, but he was just a
No,
great.
actually, Irene has had
Oh,
Howard for an independent study. Yes.
yeah, yeah, he was the best. I just felt like great hands-on, real world application. It was a great class.
Yes, and he is back in the Department of Animal Science now, so we're very excited to have him return. So more fun facts. Jen is also a Dairy Challenge alumni. She was on the first team from Iowa State in the first Dairy Challenge. So
Yeah, that is a fun fact.
yes.
And it's really fun to see how that program has grown too, just the amount of people that are involved and how it's evolved over the years and the places that people are going after they've done Dairy Challenge. It's a pretty successful program, and I'm glad it's continuing.
Did you do judging too, or just Dairy
I
Challenge?
just did Dairy Challenge. Yep.
Okay.
But I had lots of friends who did dairy judging. So, and I still am in touch with them, you know, today, right? So 25 years later, you
Yeah.
are still connected with those dairy friends from your Dairy Science Club.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we'll wrap up with future plans after graduation. And yeah, maybe that can be our last question.
Well, after graduation, I am moving to New York and I'll be working with Stauffer Farms as their calf and maternity manager.
Yeah, I will be working for Innovative Liquids as their Midwest service and sales rep.
I will be moving to Appleton, Wisconsin to work for CP Feeds as their farm business relationship manager. I still have a semester left, so I'm still figuring that one out.
I think I was trying to remember if I needed to like catch myself because it gets to be a certain time of the semester when you start the semester and there's still a lot of people who don't know what they're going to do. And then as it creeps towards like April, you start to be like, at least for me, I'm always when a guest speaker comes in or whatever, and he's, oh, what are you guys going to do after graduation? I'm like, not everybody wants to talk about it, but
Well, I think the whole time I
Delana,
was in your class, Gail, I didn't want to talk about it, but it came
yeah.
in place.
They all keep asking, but Delana, you've got time. You've got plenty of time to figure it out. So, but yeah, maybe we can make a pitch if anybody wants to hire Delana. She's still on the job market.
And Gail, we do have to end with one other question that we ask
Oh,
our
that's right.
students is what is
Yes.
your favorite dairy product?
What isn't my favorite dairy product?
That should be the question, right?
Yeah,
I can
know.
attest as Irene's roommate, she does use a lot of dairy products.
Reagan sometimes doesn't like it. He's a little lactose intolerant, but yeah, sour cream, cottage cheese. I drink a lot of milk. Yeah. Ice cream's great. We just went for ice cream yesterday. So
I will say my favorite dairy product is probably a tie between cottage cheese and Culver's custard.
Mm.
I would say mine. I really like milk. Like, I really like it a lot. And I love cheese. I could eat cheese with every single meal. In fact, like when I go to McDonald's, everything has to have cheese on it. Because I go to McDonald's a lot. That's a fun fact for all your listeners out there. You should get McChickens with cheese on them.
Oh.
Delicious. I love it. Irene's laughing because she knows I do this all the time. But true story. I love cheese and milk. I'd have to completely agree with Mari. Those McChickens with cheese, that's the only way to go. But I also really love milk and cheese.
All right. Well, with that, do we want to list our favorite dairy products too, Jen? I feel like mine's the same answer as Irene's. What's not my favorite? Like, cheese is very versatile, but
yeah. Cottage cheese has been on my list lately, but
yeah,
ice cream.
Nobody said yogurt, I don't think.
It's getting to be summertime. Nope. Ice cream.
Yep. Yes. So I just got, I think I got, did a couple speaking engagements this spring and got cheese as my speaker gift, and then bought some cheese at the Dairy Science Club auction. So my fridge is full of fancy cheeses right now that I've been working through. But all right, and with that, we want to wish our graduates good luck. I'm not sure when exactly this will be posted. When we're recording this, they're just a few days away from graduation. You might hear this a little bit after they graduate. But yeah, we are excited to send these folks out into the world, either in May or in December. But watch out, everybody. So they'll be forces in and of themselves.
Thanks again, ladies, for joining us. And we want to thank our audience for listening today. And we look forward to visiting with you on the next Dairy News and Views from ISU. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.